Hello, and welcome to the Project's Relax Talk. I am your host, Smokey, and joining with me, as always, is my co host, Spooge.
Hello.
It is a very special occasion. I
Truth
have,
has come out.
yes, the truth can finally come out. I have gained clearance to share the narrative that the organization that I work for has gathered up, gathering various data and research into the topic of the truth. Now, Spooge, you are new to my branch, so this is more going to be me kind of debriefing you on the narrative we have gathered so far.
hmm
All right, so for a little context, I am able to share. We have. I don't know how long you have been, but I've been working for an organization for about 4, 5 months now. But
hmm
I have been looking into what they've been looking into for quite a while. I started back in high school, is when I started looking for. I didn't start looking for the organization, but I started looking for the truth because there were these certain patterns that I started noticing. I cannot divulge what these patterns are. I cannot share these patterns in any format. I can just share the fact that patterns do exist, and there's a certain format to the patterns, and there's a reason why the format exists, and we
hmm
are seeking that truth.
Yeah, I believe you explained to me that it's not something that you can see with a conventional mind.
No, you really have to have a broader and opened mind.
hmm
There's a most people can actually see the patterns, they just don't pay attention, and that's the problem.
hmm
It's you got to start paying attention, and once you start paying attention, you'll notice the patterns, and once you start noticing the patterns, that's when it will all click together. But I can't get into the patterns. But yes, I noticed these patterns back in high school, and I started looking for what the patterns were connected to. And in my search, I found the organization. The organization has no name, it's literally just the organization, and they have been around longer than the United States government. They have been around longer than I probably the British Empire, to be honest.
hmm
The resources that I have been allotted to are very hypothetical in a way. It's very iffy because there's so much new information that we get. Most of the research and data that we've gathered changes on like a hourly basis, so it's hard to keep up with everything.
hmm
But nonetheless, I found the organization, and another person that we have come in contact with, me and you, have was also so happened to stumble upon in the organization, and we have been opened up to the truth of it all. But for the most part, it all circles around one particular place, and you know this place, Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
Now, Skinwalker Ranch is if you don't know, Skinwalker Ranch is a plot of land in the Uinta Basin that is a hot spot for paranormal and abnormal activity and a huge UFO hotspot.
hmm
There are beams of light that goes on and shit like that, and there are reasons why. We will slowly but surely get into those reasons, and there is a reason why Skinwalker Ranch, the area of Skinwalker, is such prevalent to not just the unnatural phenomenon that happened there, but just human history in general. Most of our records are correct, but they have been uh, manipulated. I can say in a way by what the organization has deemed sky people, The sky people are mostly the ones in the UFOs, and they have an agenda to control it all. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Ah.
We really can't get into any of this until we actually explain what the truth actually is in the true human history. Not many people are aware of this, but evolution is a thing. Most people don't want to believe in this for some reason, but it is true. Evolution does exist, and it is a chaotic force. Not
Hmm.
many people know this, but humans, sky people, and what we will later more go into depth with are known as ground people, fish people, and the nameless ones. They have all evolved into different branches, but only slightly different. If we gathered all of us all together in a room, we wouldn't be able to tell who what is what. We would all look the same, and it would be very hard to distinguish one another from each other. That hasn't always been the case. Sometimes evolution is a very tricky and unsettled thing,
Mm-hmm.
and not all the sky people, ground people, fish people, and nameless ones look like they should. They have definitely developed other things.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going all over the place, but it begins at Skinwalker Ranch. But before Skinwalker Ranch was Skinwalker Ranch, it begins when the world was Pangea.
Mm-hmm.
There was a what we can surmise was the Alpha Homo. The alpha the It's the main link between any Homo erectus, any Homo sapien, any species that starts with the Latin classification Homo.
Mm-hmm.
This is where they derived from. They were an advanced species of homos, and they were technologically advanced as well. They
Mm-hmm.
We have,
We could say hominids.
yeah, hominids.
Mm-hmm.
We will say hominids. I was wondering when when you'd stop me. But yes, these hominids, we can call these hominids bloodskins, and there's a definite reason why. These hominids, they did not have veins, and their skin was translucent. And how their blood worked, if you looked at them, you would see their like all over their body. It's their blood. And you can see it, and it's usually a purplish hue. So that makes them a purplish color. But the reason why they're called bloodskins is because it looks like their blood is their skin.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have a purplish hue, but there is a slight uh, defect to this. When they get agitated and angry, their blood gets oxygenated. So they go from purple to red. And when they get depressed, it's very obvious because their blood gets deoxygenated, and they become purple to blue. And they kind of, it's like a mood, their human mood rings basically. They do have
Mm-hmm.
hair. Their hair is very long and flaily. It's white, and the reason why it's white is because it's actually nerve endings. They've developed nerve like a very weird nerve ending hair structure that we really don't know what the beneficial use of it is. We haven't encountered enough bloodskins. We've only encountered one because these people, they they convert it's hard to they don't convert sunlight, but they can convert energy, any kind of energy, into what you can say is life essence, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So you're saying they kind of have their hair is kind of like that of like whiskers. Like whiskers are basically specialized hairs with nerve
Yeah,
endings.
their hair would look like my hair, but it would be white, and it's very, very. They have to make sure that it's not really touching anything.
Hmm.
It's very weird. They're very particular about their hair not touching anything because they can feel with it.
And going with their blood, would you say they're are they still endothermic? Are they still warm blooded?
Yes, they're still warm blooded creatures.
Okay.
They just they have no pigmentation in their skin whatsoever, like none
Hmm.
whatsoever. And since they don't have veins, their skin is translucent, and their blood's not contained in anything, so it's just flows all over their body. if
Gotcha.
if you're not paying attention enough, you can actually see the blood flow throughout their body. It can be very trippy,
Hmm.
especially because of their eyes. Their eyes are very unique. You know, a color you know how uh, certain programs and like art programs stuff and paint software will have like a color wheel that's like a mesh of all the colors together, but it's a distinct, it's still a color wheel.
Hmm.
That's kind of what their eyes look like, but they do have pupils. Their irises are just like a color wheel to kind of, and it's they can be very trippy beings to look at and observe.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's very their vocal cords are very unique because it's they can adapt to any audio tunes that they hear. If they
Hmm.
want to, if they want it, they can't communicate with animals by doing this, but if they want it to sound like an animal, all they have to do is listen to an animal for like an hour, and they will be able to mimic that animal completely. And it goes with humans too. If they listen to you talk for a minute, they will be able to mimic you perfectly. It's very scary too.
Hmm.
And they can die. They can be killed, but they're very skittish individuals, so it's very hard for them to die. It's very weird. And their
Hmm.
reproduction is they're they have both genitalia. They're anthropomorphs.
They're hermaphrodites.
Hermaphrodites, yes, thank you. I was blanking out on the word. But
Nice.
yes, they are hermaphrodites, and their breeding is more out of pleasure than anything else. And they can do self fertilization if they wanted to. Like they can have sex, but they don't have to. They can definitely just fertilize themselves.
Hmm.
And that's why the numbers aren't as prevalent. But yeah, that is the bloodskins, and this is very prevalent because there is a distinct part, and there's a distinct time that happened in their civilization where there was like a divide amongst the bloodskins. There was a fear of resources, you can say. That someone noticed in bloodskins that the resources on Earth was very finite, and their population was kind of getting out of hand due to the fact that they kind of were very horny, and they didn't have contraception or anything because they didn't believe in that, like because their breeding process is unknown, but it's not exactly the same to ours. It's definitely
Hmm.
was a bit different. I'm going to the assumption is their breeding process was rapid, that it
Hmm.
might have happened in 9 hours instead of 9 months. It. But we're unaware, and we don't really know. For all we know is their reproduction was them just splitting into two different beings, and that other half just going off like regular cells. We have really no causation to figure out because the only blood skin that we have encountered is a bit of a fuddy duddy.
Mm.
He's existed for years, and he's one of the ones that stayed on Earth because he wasn't necessarily concerned about the resources, and he saw that the majority was leaving, and that the rest could just stay. But that backfired on them because for their offspring started developing mutations and stuff on Earth, and they have, of course, ended up becoming us. And the ones that left went to another planet that's close by.
Hmm.
Can you guess what planet this is?
Mars?
Yes, it is. The planet is Mars. The theory that Mars used to be a luscious, beautiful planet is true. It had bountiful resources. It had plenty of water. It had luscious land, and the bloodskins that left, they settled on Mars. But something happened with them that the environment of Mars changed them a lot quicker than normal, and there obviously are no more bloodskins left on Mars, and they kind of evolved into humans up there, but they did
Hmm.
it at a much faster pace than on Earth. The bloodskins on Earth, it took them a while, and of course some of them weren't changing and evolving. Some of them were, of course, remaining the same, and those went into isolation and hid themselves away from the rest of the world because they just knew they didn't all they needed was some form of energy somehow, and they'd be good to go. They don't have to breed or anything. They can just stick to whatever hobby they want to.
Mm-hmm.
So they evolved into humans, and unfortunately these humans on Mars, they adopted the true and tried, the resources aren't finite, and they're infinite, and they just kept on depleting Mars's resources until it was barren. And as a last ditch attempt, they took what technology they could and they left Mars and they came back to Earth.
Hmm.
There is a certain mountain on Mars that looks like a human, like a face. That is actually a statue that during like during the launch it wasn't pretty. Apparently the ship almost did not make it off of Mars because of the sheer rioting that was going on. For the simple fact that there seemed to be a selection of, I want to say, four royal families that were big families. They were massive family. They were both they were enough to make up a whole civilization, a whole city. But these four families were the ones selected for the leaving, and everybody else were kind of pissed. And that is like one of the statues that like were toppled over, and it just like fused into the environment, and that's like the last remnants. And there's a few like they're not pyramids, but they're like top of buildings that look like pyramids and stuff on Mars.
Hmm.
And that is the last remaining of the that. And then they left, and they settled what is known as the Lost Civilization.
Hmm.
So the Lost Civilization, of course, is made up of four factions or families. These factions, we have gave them designations because of records that survived the test of time, and we may or may not have encountered some ancestors of these people that have persisted, and we'll get into this. But these four people are labeled um, Lumerians, Atlanteans, the Illuminatis, and the fourth one we have not obtained the name of yet. It has
Hmm.
been lost to time because they were seen as a shut in. Because when these humans came to Earth, they didn't at first encounter any of us, but of course, eventually, we came around and we saw this big glowing fucking city, and we were like, holy shit. And we we were kind of like, we want that, and we're gonna take that no matter what. It's like
Hmm.
it's basically like the equivalent of the obelisk in 2001 Space Odyssey. Basically, a bunch of primitive humans saw a monumental structure that they could not interpret or understand, and it drove them insane and drove them to war to with the people that live there.
Huh.
Yeah, that we couldn't handle that kind of technology. It was too soon for us. It was basically the equivalent of time travelers going back in time and introducing technology to cavemen.
Hmm.
You would have the same result. They would fucking freak out and be very violent and most likely destroy whatever device you introduce them to, and probably kill you too. Just because the clothes you wear. Just because of the fucking clothes you wear.
Hmm.
Like they just cannot process that information yet, and because they can't process it, they get scared of it. Because they're scared, they attack.
Hmm.
It was a common defense mechanism, and the fourth group saw that. They saw that. They didn't see we were acting out of any malevolence. We didn't say, "Oh shit, these people need to be eradicated because we're the higher being." We just didn't know what the fuck we were dealing with.
Hmm.
So the fourth group decided, "Hey, let's mingle with these people. Let's show them they were basically the Prometheus." And that's probably where the Prometheus legend came from. The sky people probably made it up for the Greeks.
Hmm.
They didn't necessarily give us fire, but they gave us technology that we needed in order to progress on a much rapid pace. And that was deemed not good, and that kind of started a rift amongst the four, the four organizations that were running this civilization.
Hmm.
And so those people kind of was put on the back burner, and they might have went to war with the other three and got eradicated, but there is another theory that we'll get into later. So that group kind of disappears
Hmm.
from the history for like, did they just like vanish? We don't necessarily know what happened to them.
Hmm.
And I forgot to say, all this is happening on the Skinwalker Ranch land, like the area Skinwalker Ranch is. This is all happening. Like the blood skin civilization was settled there, and when they left, they dispersed across the world, of course, and that's how we, got separated. And of course, when the people came back, they literally settled right back on that. They didn't know. It's just basically a coincidence. This keeps happening.
Hmm.
So I needed to clarify that. That's why Skinwalker Ranch is so prevalent to the story. It's because the area of Skinwalker Ranch is where most of this takes place.
Hmm.
So this, and back to the four organizations. The fourth one, of course, disappears, and we don't know what really happened to him. And the
Hmm.
three factions, they have a dilemma on their hand. They have humans now. They have to deal with us now. We have technology, and we kind of understand what's going on, and they have to deal with us. The time frame this is happening is unclear. This could have happened in a matter of years. It could have happened in a matter of centuries. We're unclear. But for some reason, the three groups all came up with their own little plan. The one wanted to isolate themselves. They said no, let's just disappear like the other group, and let's let's just let's just cloak ourselves, and if any humans come near, let's fuck with them enough and scare them off, and let's not deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
And the other group, they wanted to eradicate us. They did not want us around. They were very violent. They was like, no, we should eradicate them now. Why? We have the numbers. They're not gonna stop breeding and repopulating, and they're gonna constantly grow their numbers, and eventually they're gonna outnumber us, and we have to eradicate them.
Mm-hmm.
And the other people, they wanted us as free labor.
Ah,
Yeah.
can we
Uh,
clarify which is going on here?
I'm about to. The people that want nothing to do with us and just want to isolate themselves, they are the ground people.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why they're the ground people is we'll have to get into that in a second. And the people that wanted to eradicate us, they are what are known as the fish people, and
Mm-hmm.
the people that want to use this as free label are known as the sky people. You can also say the ground people are the Lumerians. You can say the fish people are the Atlanteans, and you can say the sky people are the Illuminati. But it's unclear if that's the true uh, designation. Those names did exist, and they were names of the organization, but we're not 100% sure which was which. It's up in the air. That's why we designated them fish people, sky people, and ground people, and the nameless ones, because there's no name in the records, and we really don't know what happened to them. So we just say the nameless ones.
Mm-hmm.
So with this rift, with this disagreement amongst the three ruling factions of this civilization, they decided they weren't really gonna be hostile with it. They were actually very peaceful with it, and they said instead we are going to devise our own plans, and we're going to separate ourselves, and we're going to do whatever we want to do, and we're not going to really fuck with each other, and we're not going to try to intervene with humans too tough.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this was promoted by the Sky People.
Hmm.
Don't ever fucking trust the Sky. They're the Illuminati. They want free labor. They don't give a shit who they have it from. They're probably getting, they've probably manipulated stuff. We are probably their free labor now. The ground people are probably their free labor. They're probably getting free labor from everybody, and they're just sitting around in their fucking special ass ships, flying around laughing at us because they've done it. They've won, and we have allowed it because they've manipulated us in such a fine way.
Hmm.
Now, now you're wondering why are the designations what the you're. I'm going to assume you have a question of why are they designated what they're designated.
Yes.
Okay, so they're designated what they're designated because they're plans. The ground people, they decided they were going to go underground. So that's what they did. They hollowed out huge chunks of the earth, uh, causing the hollow Earth conspiracy theory to slightly be true.
Mm-hmm.
It's not 100% hollow, but there are huge chunks of it hollowed out. And they did that so they can create different biomes and shit, and they can simulate the surface world without really having to be on the surface.
Hmm.
They gathered animals throughout the ages to, they, of course, they have a relay system. The entrance to this huge underground cave system, the entrance is at Skinwalker Ranch. They did not leave the area. They just burrowed underneath and they stayed there. And that would explain why Skinwalker Ranch is like it is. It's because people are getting too close to the entrance, and the ground people heavily monitor that entrance out of everything else. Uh, so yeah, they
Hmm.
and the fish people are designated the fish people because they went underwater. They decided they were going to go underwater and build up their armies, and when the time was right, they would strike. It kind of backfired on them, though, because they weren't 100% prepared for underwater living. So it kind of decimated their numbers to the point where they're still around, but they will never be able to uh, uh they will never be able to erect their plan that they initially had. It just they did not prepare themselves. They literally took most of they quote unquote waterproofed their spaceships that they had, and that's what they used to go underwater.
Hmm.
And that some of them survived, and some of them survived enough to modify their ships and stuff to where it's feasible. These people they're nomadic. They don't stay in one place because they're very aware that we're very curious on the ocean, and we're exploring that shit, and sometimes we get a little close. But there is two epicenters in the ocean where they kind of congregate. One
Hmm.
is actually near us. It's the Bermuda Triangle that explains all the mysterious disappearances of the ships and planes. The
Hmm.
planes usually disappear only because they've surfaced and they don't want the planes to see them. So they kind of shoot down the plane and take as much of the debris as possible, so it's enough of a mystery. And the other place is known as the Dragon's Triangle or the Devil's Sea, and that is over in the Pacific Ocean off of Japan, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that is another epicenter that where like ships go missing a lot and shit, and that's another reason why. And it's not necessarily understood if it's because those are just two epicent hotspots where they like have a lot of commerce and trade, or if that's just like two of their resting spots. Like they
Hmm.
just love resting there for some reason. They and then you have the sky people. The sky people, they of course they went there's actually the sky people split up into two different factions. You have one that's kind of nomadic. They have a centralized spaceship that kind of like just navigates the solar system. That but they flood they're sticking around close enough to where they can come and fuck with us every so often.
Hmm.
And then there's another group. They they saw that there was a gigantic ass rock in the sky, and they took the ground people's idea and amplified it and hollowed out that gigantic ass rock,
Hmm.
thus creating the hollow moon conspiracy.
Hmm.
It is hollow, and I'm not 100% sure if they're fucking with us or if they are like the ground people and they just stay away from us as much as possible. But there's a this rock used to spin, but they are keeping it from spinning because you know what's on the dark side of the fucking moon?
What?
Big ass fucking door. Big ass metal door. That will be like so like we will be able to see it from Earth. Like it's fucking massive, and they're just trying to keep that a little secret. So they stopped the rotation of the moon, and that was that.
Hmm.
And so that pretty much brings us to the truth and why we are talking about Skinwalker Ranch. These are the three people behind the phenomenon. And not just the phenomenon. I'm fucking that word up. I've said it too much. Not just the weird shit that happens at Skinwalker Ranch, but the weird shit that happens everywhere.
Mm.
Yes, these people they don't look like humans anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The ground people, they're of course they're underground and they don't have any natural light sources, so they don't tan. They can't tan, and it's just not possible. They stay under what is the equivalent of fluorescent lights. So they're
Mm-hmm.
very white. They're very pale individuals.
Hmm.
They're very tall, and the sky people have kind of convinced them that they have to go off world and like to finish growing, and they believe that they go to another planet, but all they really do is what we assume is the sky people. It's probably not the faction, but they just drop them off at the moon base and leave them at that, and then whenever they have to bring them back, they bring them back.
Hmm.
And these will be known as the tall whites.
Ah.
If you don't know, the tall whites have only one story, and that was them trying to see. They were very curious. I guess they wanted to see if they could integrate with humans, but the human test subject that we used, uh, they didn't like the vomiting,
Hmm.
so they decided not to fuck with us because they were like, if that's what humans do, then no, we're good. So yeah, that was that experiment gone. The sky people, you know what they look like.
Huh?
You know what the sky people look like.
I don't.
It's the your standard grays. They're your standard grays.
Ah.
Yeah, and they
It's the Greys again. I
yeah
know.
yeah, and they're the horny ones. They're
Mm.
they're not only do they love using us for free labor, but we're toys to them. We're just something they can manipulate and use to their advantage whenever they want to.
So you're saying like probings or like some fetish for the
Yeah.
aliens?
Oh, dude. Yeah. It's all fetishistic. It's nothing but fetish for them.
Mm.
Like that is their only like, and it kind of can backfire on them because there's there's one reason they love the process, but they don't love the seminal fluid that the male counterparts seem to produce.
Ah.
Yeah, there's a reason why they collect that stuff as efficiently and as cleanly as possible. It's because they do not want to touch that stuff. That is a
Mm.
misconception that they use that stuff for breeding. Most likely, they sell that to the fish people as a liquid for the fish people to drink, as just like as a joke and as a fuck you to the fish people, because they're not hostile. They're not hostile whatsoever, and they despise hostile people, and that's what the fish people are. Nothing but hostile. They're the ones they don't eat they're the reptilians, and what I mean by that is they look human, but they love
Hmm.
fucking with humans whenever they get bored. They
Hmm.
love coming to the surface and just fucking with us because they can't attack us. They can't outright attack us, so they have what they call espionage attacks, and they kidnap humans and they quote unquote eat humans and shit like that. They don't really eat us. They most likely they probably do chop us up and sell us back to the sky people. Or what happens is they trade our meat for our seminal fluid, but back and forth from the sky people, because the sky
So what you're
people.
saying is me sky knees, me play joke, me put cum in your coke.
Well, they're not. They of course aren't telling the fish people what the seminal fluid really is, but they've
Yeah.
probably convinced the fish people that it's like a protein drink or something, or something that they found
Hmm.
in space that's very like beneficial to them. And of course, the Greys. Not many people know this. The Greys, they can only eat protein. They need vast quantities of protein, and that's why they trade with the fish people, because the fish people gather a shit ton of protein, any kind of meat they can for them. They don't
Hmm.
ask questions where it comes from, because if they did find out, that there we have been able to question a few Greys about this subject. If and They can't vomit, but
Hmm.
their organs can come out of their mouth, and that'll kill them. And we've accidentally killed a few Greys that way, by
Hmm.
accidentally forcing their gag reflex.
Ah,
Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
that sounds like it'd be a sight to see.
uh, but yeah, that and the fish people, they're like I said, and now we can get into the nameless ones. All right, so there's a theory. You are 100% aware of the Black Lodge.
Yes.
We
I've
are
watched Twin
not.
Peaks.
This is the theory. It is a theory amongst the organization itself, and which is very, very scary, because the organization only works in absolutes. They
Hmm.
only work with data. They only work with research. If the organization ever tells you something, they're telling you as the absolute truth. They're not joking around. They're very serious about this research. They take this shit super serious, and that's why it's very confidential, and that's why it's very fucking amazing that I got clearance to even share all this.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's all because and that's we're not 100% sure if this is true or not, but they may or may not have created or discovered the Black Lodge, and that's where they went.
Hmm.
And the men in black would be them. It would be the people from the Black Lodge coming into our reality again. And the reason why they all act all weird and herky jerky and whatnot is because they just aren't. They're used to whatever fucking customs the Black Lodge goes by, and what we know comes out of the Black Lodge, thanks to our head researcher on the Black Lodge, Aleister Crowley.
Hmm.
The Black Lodge is fucking nuts,
Yeah.
and so they're trying to act human, but they just don't know how to.
So could you even say this is just a theory? Like the Black Lodge could even just be another means of transportation too. Just just thinking back on this Skinwalker Ranch story of the Bigfoot like being that came out of a black hole
Most likely
out of
that,
nowhere.
well, most likely the entrance to the Black Lodge, the main entrance, because there's multiple entrances, thanks to the fact that Aleister Crowley found a way to open other gateways into the Black Lodge. But yes, the main gateway that the ground people would use would be located at Skinwalker Ranch.
And I'd assume in the way of Crawley and just also just thinking back from references from other things, that it probably these doorways don't stay open. They probably only open now and then at certain times, right?
They kind of have to be. They do open. Yes, you're correct. But it's very rare that they naturally open by themselves. 9 times
Mm.
out of 10, it is a force that's opening it, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. And it's not 50%, half the time, you can say half the time it's from the other side.
Hmm.
It's actually just something from the Black Lodge wanting to come over here, and it might not necessarily know that. It just might just accidentally pop out.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Aleister Crowley opened a doorway um, in Scotland. There
Hmm.
might be a Stonehenge. Actually, might be another doorway opened up by the Sky People themselves in order to communicate with them people, because the Sky People, the ground people, fish people, and nameless ones don't communicate with the three of each other. None of them communicate with each other, but the Sky People communicate with all of them. They love, because like I said, they use them for free labor in some form or fashion. Like the fish people, they gather their protein for them. The ground people, we assume they do research for them for some reason. They're the ones that they're the most technologically advanced of all of them, and they just fucking bum technology off of them now. They're too lazy to develop their own technology.
Ah.
Yeah, they're the bums. They're the fucking bums of the earth. Because not many, like, all of these, like, all of this is from Earth. Like, none of this is aliens. It's the ancient alien theory is only half right due to the fact that half of us left and came back.
Hmm.
But other than that, that's the only extraterrestrial about us.
Gotcha.
Do you have any questions? Do you
Uh,
have anything that you need to be clarified?
well, I guess one of my main questions would be how how do humans link with the likes of the subhumans from before Homo erectus, Homo neanderthal? Uh, is was there some type of hybridization that happened, or?
Evolution just rolled the dice, and our genetic code is just way too similar. The literally the If you looked at our DNA, there would be slight differences to our. The only differences to our genetic code would be the appearance, is what
Hmm.
manipulates their appearance.
Hmm.
Everything else is 100% like us. And of course, because their appearance is different, their anatomy is different, works differently. That's why they have
Hmm.
quirks about them that we don't. Like the Greys
Gotcha.
puking their guts up when their gag reflex act. It's because they don't really hold. They hold stomach acid, but they don't hold stomach acid because
Hmm.
their anatomy is different. It is
Gotcha.
not different. It's just staged differently, if that makes sense. It's the same parts. It's like cars. It's the same exact parts, just put in slightly different variations to where you can differentiate them, but it's the same thing. You know, a truck, a
Hmm.
SUV, and a Nissan Altima, plain old car. They're all three still a car.
Yeah.
They might be drastically different, but they still use the same parts to run and function. And at the core of everything, they're exactly the same.
Hmm. Got you.
Is that anything else?
Hmm. Thinking.
Is there any?
Give me
Because
give me a second. There was a lot there.
yeah, there's a lot of information to mull through.
So, uh,
Eh,
I'm thinking. I'm
no, that's
thinking.
it's fine. Take your time. Take your time. I understand. The truth hurts your brain.
So I'm having a Jimmy Neutron brain blast right now. Except in real time. Uh, uh, so I guess I mean what are some other phenomenon that you wouldn't think would be linked with a lot of this that maybe like that you could explain? I don't know, like say the Loch Ness monster.
There is two theories. One, Nessie's fucking just real. Like it's just straight up real.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just a plesiosaur that just happened. There's just a group of plesiosaurs and just they evolved enough. They didn't evolve distinctly enough to look different, but they evolved enough to live in the loch. Or
Mm-hmm.
it is fish people in a ship that's just fucking
Mm.
with just fucking with humans because that's what they love doing. That
Gotcha.
they can't attack us, so they fuck with us, and that's just what we got to live with. They do love
What ab-
farming us, though. They do kidnap us and take our. If you 9 times out of 10, if a fish person takes you, you're not coming back.
mm. I,
They would be the stories of like the horse, like the sticky horse that like plays with children and like convinces them to like get on them, and then once they're latched on, they drown the child. That's most likely just a fish person coming up in like a horse suit or something to fuck with the human children to make them feel a little more safer because it's I guess it's not as strange for a random ass horse to pop up out the lake than it is a random ass human.
uh
Because the fish people, they look exactly like us. Their outfits and their suits just look reptilian, and
mm.
and they use makeup and shit to fuck with us. They we the only reason why we've seen what a fish person look like is because we found a dead one and we took the makeup off.
uh so you're saying even like mermaids, fish people, fucking with us?
Yep, just just fish people fucking with us.
Hmm.
Now there is, like I said, there is, because the Black Lodge does exist, and the fish people might have accidentally opened a couple of doors to the Black Lodge. That would also explain the weirdness of the Bermuda Triangle and the Dragon's Triangle. Is because we don't know which of the groups we I shouldn't say the fish people and ground people don't communicate with the nameless ones because we don't know. We
Mm-hmm.
know for sure the sky people do. They definitely do because they they got. We're not sure what they get from them, but we're very aware of the communication between them just because Stonehenge exists.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So a mermaid could be a creature from the Black Lodge that the fish people brought over to fuck with humans, and then like shut it back into the Black Lodge.
You could even say the same with the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah.
With that thing.
Yep. You can say that. Now there is there's a there's something that came from the Black Lodge though that I have to clarify.
Mm-hmm.
The chupacabra.
Mm.
That thing, you know the traditional look of it.
Yes, the you talk about the spines of the reptile.
The alienish look. Yes, yes.
Yeah, with the
That's what they really look like. They that
mm,
the blue coyote that people are finding is literally just coyotes with mange.
mm,
Like that's all that is.
yeah.
And most of those, I'm not gonna lie, have been planted. Most people don't know this, but a huge majority of people that say they shot a chupacabra have shot a chupacabra. The body had just been collected by the organization before them, and unfortunately, the organization used the blue coyote corpses as decoys.
Ah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, that is and all of this has to
That is,
do. All of this centers around finding the truth at Skinwalker Ranch.
mhm.
If they just dig, that's all they have to do. They just have to get a backhoe in there, and they will find the truth. I already know that they
I
did.
mean, it doesn't seem like they're gonna let him now.
Yeah, well, I know in the first episode they have a backhoe on the thumbnail on Hulu, so thumbs crossed.
Hmm.
I mean, fingers crossed, thumbs crossed.
Fingers definitely crossed.
But yeah, that's the truth of Skinwalker Ranch. It is a
Hmm.
pl-
The
it is
introductory.
yeah a very very introductory. It is it the truth of it's just the epicenter of a lot of wacky shit.
Mhm.
Of course, we will be getting into other like once we get more data and once we get into more research, we will give more findings and stuff. We're constantly updating our archives.
Hmm. So where does this put me?
You just gather stories of phenomenon and relay them to me. We will probably do it live now, and we will determine using what we know of these four groups what the phenomenon is and if it's tied to Skinwalker Ranch or not.
Yeah.
If it's the ground people or the Black Lodge, it's or the Sky people, it's most likely involved with Skinwalker Ranch. The only time it's not Skinwalker Ranch is with when it comes to the fish people, because they want nothing to do with the ground people, or they want to stay far away from them as possible. That's why they went into the ocean and they didn't stay on the surface because they didn't want to fuck with us.
Hmm.
And when I mean
So yeah.
And I wanted to clarify, I call them fish people because they're nomadic and they don't stay in the oceans. They definitely will go up rivers and go into lakes and stuff like that. They're nomadic.
Hmm.
And what was you gonna ask?
Well, I guess said what is the organization's interest in me? Me, a skeptic.
Oh well, I've just I'm high enough I'm high enough up and to where I can bring you onto my team.
To let you know, I'm definitely going to be the Scully of this operation.
Oh, that's fine. The,
but I will
I
report any of my findings.
I will be able I'm able to share that my team is very small. It's me, you, and one other person that we cannot divulge the name of because that person doesn't want to give their name out.
Yes.
But and before you ask, oh, where's the data? Where's the research? Where's your math? Where's the numbers? Blah blah blah. I can't share that information. I can't even really look at this information unless I have the other person that we cannot name present with me, and even
Mhm.
then, while we're looking at the information and gathering it up and trying to sort it out correctly, there's an armed guard actively pointing his rifle at us. So
Mm.
I am not gonna fuck with it. Like
We're
I'm
just
not even going to attempt to steal a piece. A piece.
so they're definitely controlling the flow.
They're it's not their it's not they're controlling the flow. It's they're very paranoid that the sky people will be involved in some way and manipulate what we've gathered. Because when it comes to sky people, that any information we have gathered from any of the sky people we have deemed false and a lie, and we've done allocated that into a separate folder to where we don't really fuck with it, and that's why if you think that it's a phenomenon, it most likely was just sky people. But like I said, that's why I want to bring you on. It will help me gather other data. It'll help me gather outside information, outside stories and stuff.
Okay.
While
That's
I and I'll take those
a
outside.
sister game they play.
What I didn't catch that. What?
I said it's a sinister game they play.
Yeah, it is. It's very sinister. But it's because I'm not gonna lie that this organization's very bloodthirsty. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
100% sure why, but they definitely have no holds bars when it comes to gathering information from subjects.
Mm-hmm. It's
Like
like they flood our memories.
kind of. Most of the false stuff is from the Sky People, though. The organization
Oh,
is
that's what I was referring to.
gotcha.
The sky people, the
Y-
quote unquote grays.
yes, the quote. Oh yeah, for all we know, the grades is just another form of manipulation done by them to keep us off track.
Mm-hmm. They want us to stay away from the unknown.
Yes, yes. And the organization is out to seek the unknown, and not only seek the unknown, but unfortunately eradicate those who have kept it from us.
Mm.
That
Gotcha.
and the reason why I'm establishing just this, that is why I do not cross my loyalties. I want to make that evidently clear. I am dealing with bloodthirsty fucking people. I am not crossing these guys.
yes.
I they we have our agenda is not the same, but our end goal is similar. So
Common
it's
enemy.
yes, it's a common enemy, and it's beneficial to me because they give me resources that I need.
Nice. You know the truth.
All right, so we've been going on for quite enough.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been listening to the truth for this long, if you stayed with us for this long, thank you so much. Please like or comment dislike on the video, share it around. Please put this on Reddit. Go subscribe to the channel so you can get more of the truth later on in the future, and turn on notifications so you know when we post the truth later.
You must know the truth. Also, in the comment section, look, put down any paranormal activity that you've experienced, be it
Yes,
quote unquote alien, be it ghost, be it anything in between.
cryptid, just
We
weird.
need the data.
Yes, we need the data. And go check out some more of our content. We have Let's Plays. We have. Screw that. I'm not going to do that. This will be a bye bye.
Bye bye.